This meeting is being recorded.
All right, so good evening, good people. Hope that you are doing well. Happy Wednesday to you. My name is Tafari Melasizwe. I am a part of the communications team for the Baltimore Children and Youth Fund, and we are so glad for you to join us this evening for this powerful and fantastic conversation. This is session 6 of our collaborative partnership between Baltimore Children and Youth Fund, Baltimore Brothers, and others in this youth anti-violence series.
The music is coming through real loud.
It is. Oh, it didn't stop. All right. That is, thank you for that. Appreciate that. It's not playing on my end. So we will we'll reverse that. We'll start that, or we'll start the video from here. Good evening, everyone. Hope all is well. Thank you so much for being here on this Wednesday evening. My name is Tafari Melasizwe. I am a part of the communications team for the Baltimore Children and Youth Fund, and we are so glad that you can join us in Baltimore Brothers for part 6 of this BCYF Youth Anti-Violence series. Again, of course, if you need to know the when and the where, it is today, April 6th. We are on session 6. And today's subject matter is Baltimore youth and police violence. And so what I'm going to do very briefly is talk very quickly about what this session is. People that are in the chat, please definitely feel encouraged to say hello, put your name and organization in, and maybe one thing that brought you to this session this evening. Again, we're glad that you're here. But yeah, this session emerged really out of facilitating the fulfillment of a critical need for more hope, healing, and healthy opportunities, especially for Black children, adolescents, and youth throughout Baltimore. This will require better relationships among those who are working to create opportunities for their families, their neighborhoods, the organizations, and faith communities they work with. In other words, we are the cavalry. Ain't nobody coming to save us. We are here to save ourselves, and we got the means and the ability to do so. So this Youth Violence Prevention Series is a part of fulfilling that work to meet the needs of our community and meet the needs of our people. So BCYF and Baltimore Brothers have organized a series of workshops and technical assistance sessions to transfer information. I really do want you all to think of it as a transfer and an exchange. It is not just a lecture, notes. It is some of the baddest, most dynamic practitioners and healers and builders and organizers in our community. So these are folks that don't just talk about it. These are folks that have been about it and continue to be about it. So the work that they bring to the table carries some weight, carries some experience. I really encourage folks to bring their listening ears, because there's going to be a lot of nutrition in this discussion tonight. So you'll hear a little bit more from Captain Andrew about who Baltimore Brothers is, BCYF, and then where we come in. Just to share, for those who may not know, we are a nonprofit organization that stewards public funds to ensure our children and youth are healthy, ready to succeed in school, and live in stable, safe, and supportive families and communities. And so this is where we are. We've been through a series of sessions starting, I think, in February, and have been moving through. On the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see some of the stuff that we've done recently. Two sessions, one, engagement of women and girls on community-based violence, incredible session. And then most recently, we did one on mental health in Baltimore youth. And today, we're doing Baltimore youth and police violence, like you see on the right side of the screen. And on Friday, we're gonna do a small group deep dive into the subject matter that you hear today. And just for your edification, there are a few things coming down the pipe as well. And if any of that interests you, and we hope that it does, that you go to bcyfund.org/events and register for the rest of the series. Because again, as you'll see tonight, there's a lot of useful and necessary information that is present here. So Captain Andrew, I'm gonna let you introduce Baltimore Brothers and then the discussion more broadly this evening, and then I'll get out the way.
Excellent, thank you, Brother Tafari. Appreciate that introduction. Thank you for the kind words. First and foremost, I want to thank God for this opportunity. I want to thank Baltimore City Youth Fund for giving us an opportunity to show the city the great works that Baltimore Brothers is engaged in, but also the partnership that we have throughout the city and throughout the state. Our mission of Baltimore Brothers is to design, implement, and coordinate strategies and initiatives to reduce crime in Baltimore City by using astute resourcefulness and leveraging community assets and relationships. We basically was birthed out of the 2015 Freddie Gray uprising, or riots, whatever you desire to call it. And we just wanted to do something different in our community by basically stopping the violence, stopping the killing, stopping the shooting amongst each other. So we formed Baltimore Brothers, and that's how we initially started. And then we just started going into the juvenile justice systems, all the facilities across the state of Maryland, going into the prisons across the state of Maryland, going into the schools, the hospitals, the streets, wherever our people were suffering at, that's where we was going at. So we're excited to be here. We have an awesome panelist. And I just want to thank the president, Miss Alicia Lee. I'm hoping that she come on at some point, but we are looking forward to this this session, which was session 6. And this is the first 5 sessions was incredible. As Brother Tafari said, I want to use his words. It was incredible. Man, if we just went down a list, but if you haven't had a chance to see the sessions or you missed any of the sessions, please go into Baltimore City Youth Fund YouTube website, and all of them are recorded, and you can take your time and walk through every last one of them. I want to thank Dr. Phil, who's a professor at Johns Hopkins, who has been very instrumental in working directly with myself, Brother Bilal, Sister Andrika, and the Baltimore Brothers staff in organizing these sessions. We spent a lot of time, a lot of hours putting this together and researching and just talking to different people around the city, striving to get the right people in front of our audience so they can be effective in their training as well as receiving this information. So what we want to do, we want to get right to it. Yesterday, we met and we did we was at a studio in security in Baltimore County. And man, it was powerful. We only talked for about 45 minutes, but it was a powerful 45 minutes. Myself and the panelists who I'll be introducing in the next few minutes. But before we get into that, I want Dr. Phil to just give a brief overview of some of the sessions and how we're moving forward. He can talk about the TA sessions as well. Dr. Phil, go right ahead, Doc.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for everybody for joining us. And as has already been said, the Youth Fund has decided that it really wants to get money into community-based organizations to really, that they are critical for the success of Baltimore, that you often know people better, you know how to connect with them better, and you're closer to them. So that part of these trainings are to get some understanding about what some of the things that are going on, but also who else in Baltimore are doing some of these things so you can actually connect with them. So we've had earlier discussions. We started off with actually Mayor Brandon Scott talking about sort of some overviews, but we've talked about how violence is impacting both children and families. We've talked about the issues of confronting some of the long-term violence and trauma that police themselves have actually implemented in Baltimore, and how some of those things are going to get changed, and that's sort of what we're working on today. The issues of particularly both the males and the females, because there's different expressions of violence and dealing with these things. But what we're really trying to do is not focus on what's wrong with people, what happened to them, and how can we change what's happening to them and prevent things from happening for them. And that's not just getting funds, but also we hopefully make believe this is in person. And so use the chat room to communicate with other folks. Use the chat room to communicate with people that are on the panel. They may not be able to get back to you right now because they're talking, but they'll be able to get back to you later on, or come back on Friday when we have much more time to talk. Also, what your questions and things will also guide the people that are evaluating and giving out money, not just the youth funds, but there are many people that watch these videos and that you as a participant are really a part of this, to get your questions really express what your priorities are, your concerns are, and hopefully that'll help us all come together to really help Baltimore become a greater, better place, particularly for our young folks and their families. Okay.
Excellent, thanks, Doc. And Doc, I just want to say, let everybody know that I personally appreciate your commitment to our city and your commitment to change and to help out the poor and suffering. So you've been right here beside us the entire time. So I just want to thank you. You know, I can't thank you enough for your support. We're going to get right into it. I want to first start with Elijah Miles. The panelists are going to just introduce themselves and just take a few minutes and talk about the work they do in the community, in the city, as well as their organizations. But Elijah is, you know, I consider him, I want to say son, but, you know, he's more than a son, you know, because he's doing the work. You know, sometimes your son don't want to do what you want to do. but Elijah is one of them guys, one of them young men that he just took on the mantle and been running with it since the first day I met him. And I'm definitely looking forward to his future and seeing the great works he continue to do. But Brother Elijah, tell the people a little bit about yourself and the organization you do in the community, please.
So my name is Elijah Miles, founder and chairman of an organization called Tendea Family. We're a grassroots organization based in Baltimore City, based in a community called McElderly Park down the hill. And we operate transformative programs for Black people focused primarily on identity, self-improvement, community service, and development. And one of the major programs we do is we do a community cleanup where we hire between 15 and 20 youth, and we pay them $50 to come out to the community cleanup and not just participate in cleaning the community, but we hire them and pay them $50 to learn how to be involved in community work. Because we know that white people or some rich philanthropists coming and changing the neighborhoods in Baltimore City is just not a sustainable strategy. And so eventually we have to train and develop the people that live in the community to take responsibility for their community and change it generation after generation. We do other programs as far as manhood classes, womanhood classes, things that's just focused on changing Baltimore's Black community. But overall, like Captain Andrew said, just young people striving to serve Baltimore City the best way we know how. And we are young people still learning and growing and working to do what's best.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that introduction. And I just want to let everybody know, want to thank Baltimore City Youth Fund again and Brother Tafari. The title for the day is Baltimore Youth and Police Violence. I don't want everybody to focus on the title because we're going to cover so much centered around youth and violence, not necessarily police as in police is a problem, but we want to find a way to connect the dots because this is about our youth. And the goal is to educate our community and give them some information and some tools that when they leave this meeting, they'll feel that they learned something, they have something to offer the community, they can improve their nonprofit organizations, but more importantly, we're going to give our youth some hope today. So next, we want to start with another one of my brothers who I consider a son of mine, but he's a grown man, and I've been working with him for about, I want to say almost 21 years now. But as you can see, he's turned out to be a fine young man, has a beautiful family. He's a married man as well. He has beautiful parents, and he's doing great things in the community by teaching and training young men all throughout the state of Maryland. Brother Isaiah Muhammad, let the brothers in the community know, and some of the guests know some of the things you're doing in the community, and tell them a little bit about yourself. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Captain. And I want to also thank the Baltimore City Youth Fund for allowing us to come on and just have an opportunity just to share a few words. Again, like Brother Captain said, my name is Brother Isaiah Muhammad. I work in the school system, the Baltimore City Public School System, for going on about 10 years, where we work with young men inside of the school system and also outside of the school walls as well. Like Brother Captain said, the juvenile justice system, the recreation system, anywhere where our young Black men are at risk, that's where we are, striving to teach them manhood training strategies, striving to teach them things that they're not taught in a traditional classroom that they can take and use for the rest of their lives. So that's the work that we're striving to do alongside with Brother Captain and the Baltimore Brothers staff. So once again, I thank you all for allowing me just to be on this illustrious platform with these men that are striving to change the world but we first got to change our city before we do that. So thank you again, Brother Captain.
Yes, sir. Appreciate them words too. And we're gonna keep it moving. Next, we have a gentleman who is actually active in law enforcement. I met a few years ago and heard a lot of great things about him. And then I witnessed it myself, and it's different when you hear things about somebody and then you meet them and then you see exactly what they do, who they are, and their behavior reflect that. And I want to give a personal strong shout out to Major Jeff Shorter, because he's one of them police officers and he's a major that when I was growing up, we always wanted, we had Officer Friendly growing up. And Officer Friendly would knock on your door. He would let your mother, your grandmother, your father know, I'm bringing him home. I kicked his butt. He was hooked in school. He didn't go to class. I seen him on the corner. I seen him breaking in somebody's house. I seen him trying to snatch a grandma pocketbook off the bus station. I seen him, just being disruptive. And Officer Friendly, would bring you to the house and your mother spank you. And the next time you see Major Jeff Shorter, he may be mad at you, but when he get older, he'll be like, thank you for teaching me a lesson. And that's what the major represents. He gives our youth an opportunity to get it right. He won't just lock them up if it's something petty. He'll turn them over to me. He'll ask me, can you please work with this young man? And we may save his life. So Major Jeff, tell people about yourself, some of the things you've been doing in the city the last 3 decades, and your vision for our city as it relates to what you do, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, and just thank you for allowing me to work with you. And as Captain Andrew talked about, we met. I remember the day we met at Pennsylvania North. It was in reference to a protest march, and we worked it out that the community and the police were going to do this, and in a way that the voices could be heard. So I've been in law enforcement almost 30 years, and I can just say that along the way I've seen and done a lot of different things. But I've learned to understand and realize that some of the things that I've done has hurt the city. So it's been my goal, it's been my strife to change those things. I work with youth as far back as I can remember, and I look at them as my children. And I want to be the catalyst for both sides. I want to be the catalyst that people can see, okay, that's what a police officer should and could look like. And I want my officers and my comrades to see they're not that bad. They're not what they say they are. And just change the paradigm and the stigmas that's been placed on both sides. And if I can just be that bridge to repair that gap that we have right now, that's what I'm willing to do. People always talk about leaving, but I can't leave until the job is. Appreciate you having me on here. And I work among some great men. And I consider them my mentors because I learn from them every day some of the things that I should be doing and a lot of things that I shouldn't be doing. And I can pass it along to those that come behind me. So as we move forward, things can change for the better of us all.
Man, awesome. Thank you, sir. And I want everybody to know, I want to echo what he said. He's one of the good officers. And unfortunately, Baltimore has a bad name. I believe it's getting better. I believe they're cleaning it up. But if it's a bad officer, we need to expose them. But the good ones, we need to acknowledge them and uplift them, because we need police officers in our city to serve and protect the citizens. So thank you again, Jeff, Major Jeff. Our next panelist is one of my mentors. Man, I read his book when I was in prison years ago. One of the sharpest men that I have met in my life. I'm just being honest. Very articulate, very knowledgeable, very helpful. He's a teacher, he's a professor. He has a doctorate, and just a well-rounded, educator. And I can guarantee the panelists, if you listen closely to this guy, Dr. Tyrone Powers, you're gonna learn a lot today. So I hope everybody got your pads and your pens and your dictionaries out. Dr. Powers, just give the people a little bit about yourself. Tell the people a little bit about yourself, some of the work you've been doing, who you are, and your past and everything, Doc. Thank you, Doc.
Yeah, thank you. Thank us, the Baltimore City Youth Fund, and thanks to the Baltimore Brothers, and certainly everyone on this panel. We had a great time on yesterday, and we've had a great time doing this particular work. I always say to people that laughing and leading and working to change the condition of our people are not mutually exclusive. So you can do this work with joy and with partnerships that are meaningful and that are lasting. I was born and reared here in Baltimore City. I served as a Maryland State Trooper for a number of years, and I served as a special agent with the FBI, working a little bit of everything from the violent crime task force to terrorism to counterterrorism intelligence, undercover work, and so on and so forth. Started a number of organizations since I've been back here in the area. As you indicated, I'm a professor at a number of colleges, but I'm mainly the director of collaboration and special initiatives at Anne Arundel Community College. The CEO and founder of the Powers Consulting Group, serve as an expert witness on police use of force cases across the nation, and obviously will continue to work in our community. I'm so glad that we have this opportunity that you've been able to put together. I know this was part 6, and I'm hoping that the people are listening and learning and moving beyond rhetoric into the real work that save and intervene in the lives of young people. And help us in a number of different ways. If we said on yesterday, everybody leaves their mother womb as a bundle of joy. Nobody leaves their mother womb to go to prison, to commit murders, to be a victim of murder, rape, robbery, or anything else. And so there's something in the intervention piece that we're not doing right. We're talking a lot about it, but I'm glad this forum is put together. And the people you have here have all been doing the work. And I know there's a lot of people out there across the nation and the listening audience tonight who have been doing work. We just need to pull that together, tie that together, make sure it's effective work. So thank you, and I look forward to this opportunity.
Excellent, excellent. And audience, please put your questions in the chat room. Right now we have 65 people on. We want to get up to 100. We want to make sure we impact 100 people. So let your friends and family know this is going to be a powerful session right here. So we're going to get right into the questions. And then, like Dr. Leaf just said, if you have any questions, put them in the chat room. We will be coming to you all. And then also Friday, we got a TA, technical assistant question session where the audience will be able to participate and we'll be able to see each other as well. So we're going to start with Brother Elijah, and we're going to dig right into it. And gentlemen, just take between 3 and 5 minutes of time. Honestly, I'm not going to rush you. We got a little bit over an hour and a half. So if you need to go over a little bit, that's fine. But just, take your time. We want to make sure we answer the question. We want the people to learn from what we're sharing. And then we didn't really talk about the actual funding that Baltimore Youth Fund is offering the nonprofits, which I believe is between, I think it's, what's the exact number, Dr. Phil? Is it between 4 and 12 million, something like that? Is the Brother Tafar, do you know the exact number?
I don't have the exact number offhand. Hello, everyone. But I can get that information and put it in the chat for everyone.
Okay, thank you. We just want to let everybody know because it's out there in the community, it's in the public, and you have time to apply. So it's important that you have that information. Thank you very much, Brother Tafari. So, Brother Elijah, first question is, in the title, we want to continue to mention the title, the subtitle, which is Baltimore Youth and Police Violence. How can community members, including youth, work more with the police to support youth success? I'm gonna say it again. How can community members or community organizations, including the youth, work more with the police to support youth success?
That's a great question. And I think, first of all, the police have to begin to break down the divisions, the barriers that stands between them and the community. Because I'm born and raised in Baltimore City, born and raised in Down the Hill. And I told the panelists this, but when I was growing up, I already knew from a young age that it was me and my community and my neighbors versus the police. So I didn't want to be involved with the police. Not only didn't I want to be involved with them, I was afraid of the police. I was avoiding the police. I told him a story one time, plainclothes cops or the knockers back in the day jumped out on me thinking I was somebody else, and I took off running. I had to be like 10, 11, 12. But I knew from then that it's us versus the police. And the reason I knew that is because the police in Park Heights or down the hill or Sandtown, wherever they are, the way we see the police is definitely as the enemy, because they're the ones that's taking your loved ones to jail. They're the ones that take your cousin, your homeboy, the boy you admire that happens to be on a corner in some illicit activity. They're the ones taking all those people away. And so the police has to begin to break down those barriers by showing that I'm not here, for the ones that this is true to, showing that I'm not here to catch your hand in a cookie jar. I'm not here to, as an agent of the system, to make sure you go to jail. I'm not here, even though I know you've been miseducated and your community has been oppressed and depressed. I'm not here to cart you away. I'm here as a person that's striving to serve and protect by the real definition of serving and protecting the community. I'm here so that grandma feels safe. I'm here so that the elders in this community feel like they have somebody they can rely on. And not only does police have to give that image, police actually have to be that inside the neighborhoods. But sometimes some police officers take advantage of oppressed communities and take advantage of these neighborhoods because we don't know our rights in the first place. And so I told also a story where I remember as a young man when a boy was getting chased by the police and he fell on the ground, and an officer, plainclothes cop, took out his walkie-talkie and beat the boy with his walkie-talkie. And it caused an uproar on my block because we were wise enough to know that you can't do that boy like that, even if he's doing something illegal. So police have to present that image, but then also have to be that image, that I'm here not to actually cart you away and cart your loved ones away. I'm here to serve and protect this community, and I'm on y'all side. And on the other side, what I would end with is that us as the community members, we have to be on the community side also. So if you are involved in illicit activity, even if I understand the situation our people are in, we're not on the same side. If your motive is to rob and kill in this neighborhood, I'm not on your side. I'm not saying I'm on the police side, but I'm on the side of those that wants the best for this neighborhood. And our community has to be unapologetically for the best of the neighborhood and not be on the side of people that want to destroy the neighborhood in their ignorance. We have to empathize with them because they're ignorant, because they don't know better. We have to get them programs, we have to get them economics, we have to get them everything they need. But we can't want better for the community, but then at the same time be like, you know what? You know, like just the way it is. No, we have to be for the best for the community. And you on the side of those community members and also those people, no matter what they are, what they're wearing, what their uniform is, those people that actually want the best and are working for the best for the community.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful. Great, great answer. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. We coming to you next, brother Isaiah. And Isaiah, you've been working in schools for 10 years. You know the mentality of some of our young brothers and sisters, but we're gonna focus on young men right now. You know their mentality, and you know when some of them, they may see a police officer once they leave school, they leave in school, and they may feel they may feel like they being threatened, or they may feel like they're not sure what to do, and they could potentially make a mistake, and they may run. They may have some weed on them, they may have a knife, they may have a gun, or they may not have nothing on them. But how do we educate our youth so they'll know how to respond in a situation like that when they haven't done anything wrong? And I know a lot of it's from what they've seen on TV. Some of it is what they've seen on social media. Some of it is what they've seen in the streets from where they grew up at, their environment. it's a combination of reasons why our youth respond the way they respond when they see a police officer. So being that you've been in the school 10 years, you're around young men 5, 6, 7 days a week. How do we educate them so they won't make a bad decision that could cost them their life or time in prison or something negative to come out of that situation?
Right. Yeah. First and foremost, thank you for that, Captain. I always taught if you want to understand, you always go back to the root of the thing. When these young men see the police and they already have like a we versus us type thing, like Brother Elijah said, we have to understand where that came from. And not only is it deeply rooted inside of our youth, it's deeply rooted inside of us as Black men. 5 days out of the week, I wear a suit to work. But when I see them flashing lights behind me, whether they're coming for me or coming for somebody else, I feel something right here in my heart. Even though I might not have been doing anything, even though if they did pull me over, I know I may, but where did that come from? And the way that can be reversed is have panels and discussions just like this with men like Major Jeffrey Shorter, like with men like Dr. Tyrone Powers, that are here to educate and not so quick to incarcerate. Because a lot of times we don't understand how much it costs to actually lock somebody up and how much it costs to actually educate somebody. I was watching an interview, not an interview, it was a discussion by a man by the name of Dr. Jawaza Kunjufu. And he said that it costs about $2,500 per person in a Head Start program. But at that time, it cost $38,000 to lock somebody up. It said it is easier and more effective and cost-wise to educate somebody than incarcerate. Then they said Head Start programs have a high success rate, but it said 85% of the people that get locked up go right back into prison. So logically, you would think, shouldn't we put more money to educate than incarcerate? But it doesn't seem like the case today. But I believe it has to start with conversations just like this and forums just like this to show every cop isn't against it. When you see the cops walking down the street, you did do something or you didn't do something, they shouldn't be there to be against you. They should be there to do what they're supposed to do, which is to serve and protect. But not like Brother Elijah said, catch your hand in the cookie jar or lock you up. Because I came out here, I put on my belt, I put on my badge just to come lock somebody up. That shouldn't be the case. And we should try to change that idea with forms and communication just like this.
Excellent, beautiful, brother. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm being muted every time I stop speaking. Can you make sure I'm not being muted, brother? I'm not sure why I'm being muted. I shouldn't be being muted at all.
No, just as a quick technical thing. As you were coming off mute, it was creating some audio feedback for the rest of the audience. So I was muting you so that we could hear Isaiah properly. But you're good.
No, thank you. Well, keep muting me then, because I think there's a delay on my end or something. So keep muting me. Thank you, brother. Yes, sir. All right. So the next question is going to be for Major Shorter. And great. So a Major. So there are efforts that are being produced or producing efforts to reduce police violence. How can community-based organizations participate in those trainings or activities to be a part of that, so they can have the information to reduce police violence? So let me say that again, because it's probably like,
I think I understand where you're going with it. If you
okay, yes, sir. Go ahead.
So what I would say is so education, people talk about education, and the education is across the board. So when these police commissioners are selected, when you vote for your politicians, you must ensure and demand that community education is part of their program. You must demand that community education is part of their training. So we have a Citizens Academy that I think they're getting ready to put back in play, where people can learn the law, really learn the law and not be a street lawyer, but understand the actual law. We have you're free to do a ride along. We have chaplains programs where officers are educated about community understanding. So before a police officer can go and help you, they must understand that the situation that they're walking into. They must understand the culture of the communities that they work in. And foot patrol is the best way to do it. We are pushing foot patrols. We are pushing community conversation. I'm not gonna say engagement, because engagement term is a term that people look at as a negative connotation. And I just want to look at, as a young man, and most of us, right, when we were growing up, we've had these seeds planted in our brains that if you don't do right, the police are gonna come take you away. So automatically, as young people, we are instituted to believe that they are the warriors. They will do whatever is needed to do to get you right, to give you some get right. As you get older, those seeds just only grow, right? So even as police officers, we were young children at one time as well. Then you want them to come in and be guardians, but the seed has already been planted about being this warrior. So we need to switch that whole guardian warrior mentality and stop and teach our children that they are here to help. They are there to help. Sometimes you have a bad apple, or then, like you said, should be addressed and should be addressed accordingly. You shouldn't wait. If you see something wrong, we say, see something, say something. We just not talking about the criminal element. We talking about us as well. You see something, say something. Don't say, I don't want to be involved in that, because tomorrow it could be you. So education starts on both sides, and the community conversations that we have must be intentional, and they must be direct to talk about the things that affect each side as a whole. I know everyone doesn't have a happy or a pleasant experience with police, but we can change those things. It's called a relationship, and those relationships have to be built on both sides. And I know we've done a lot on our side, right? And we need to get rid of that word side. As I talk to my communities, and we have communities, if you look at the Baltimore, they put up blocks and boxes of communities that sort of boxes you into it's like segregate you from everyone else. So as I talk to my community, those boxes, because crime doesn't stay in boxes. Police corruption doesn't stay in boxes. Police violence doesn't stay in boxes. Community corruption doesn't stay in boxes. Community violence doesn't stay in boxes. And what happens to me on my street, tomorrow can happen to you on your street. So it's about educating across the board and learning who we really are from both sides. If that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Major. And then also, I mean, you let the community know that if you see something, say something. I can remember, you know, when we was in the streets hustling, to be honest with you, we wouldn't really care, you know, because we understood we was breaking the law. So I'm not reporting nothing, you know, and that's for the criminal mind, you know, but the citizen who's not breaking the law and their son or daughter, or they didn't do anything, they should report it. They should report it. You see something, say something. So I get it. I get it. We have to be educated. Thank you. Hey, Major, could you hear me clearly?
Yes, sir. You're a little low, but I can hear you.
Okay, let me make sure. All right. I got it. So I got something popping off on this piece. I'm gonna see if I can.
Dr. Powers did it to you again, brother. Listen, he ain't beside you, so he doing something again, right?
All right. So, hey, Doc.
Yes, sir.
So, Baltimore has a history, and I don't know how far it goes back, but I know Baltimore has a history of police violence. And even though the title is Baltimore Youth and Police Violence, Baltimore has a history of police violence. And we talked about the history of policing in America yesterday, where we went back 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. There was no such thing as a Black police officer. It was unheard of. And even if you wanted to protect your community, they wouldn't give us an opportunity to be in law enforcement. You know, we was consistently, had the systems in place so they wouldn't hire us, right? So my question to you, can you give us a history, and not necessarily Baltimore, but just a history of the police, well, law enforcement as it relates to our community, and how we can be better educated, so our youth would understand, because I never had nobody to come and educate me on law enforcement when I was growing up. And we have a lot of young people on here today, at least 30 that I physically know about between the ages of 11 and 21. We have at least 30 of them, and they need to be educated. Go right ahead, Doc.
Yeah, well, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity. Excellent information already from everybody on this particular subject. To be quite frank with you, Black people in this country have always been in a unique situation in regards policing. From the patty rollers to what we have today to the patrollers, the philosophy had always been to control Black people. It had been to protect and serve others, but it's been to control Black people. That's why in many of our cities and in our communities, we have what Black people perceive as a mercenary police force. In other words, they come in from outside the city. In Baltimore, sometimes they come in from as far away as Pennsylvania and Delaware. And so we see that almost like a peacekeeping force to an extent to control the natives, as you would see in a country torn by war. You send in the peacekeepers, but they don't have a connection to the community. They're just coming in to control the community in which they are in. And so they don't have a connection. They don't have an understanding of that. Remember the whole concept of law enforcement. The term law enforcement didn't even come about into the 50s and the 60s in the civil rights movement, in the movement when Black soldiers began to come back from World War II and deciding that they were not going to take unequal treatment, because if they could go fight the Nazis and the racists in Germany, then they could fight the same thing here. Prior to that, it was called policing, to protect and serve, to go into communities, protect and serve them. When the term law enforcement came around, it gave a different connotation, because inside the term law enforcement is the word force. So I'm going to use force to make you follow the law. It's no longer protect and serve. Now I'm changing the terminology from police to law enforcement. My mission is clear. Force to make you follow the law. And that became really embellished and exaggerated in Black communities across this particular nation. But let me put a footnote on this, because this is an important concept. Almost nowhere in the world that you can go, and people who in this audience who've traveled the world, there's communities find themselves policed by the majority of people from outside their community. In other words, if you go to China, or if you go to Japan, if you go to Saudi Arabia, if you go to Israel, if you go to any community, the majority of the people who are policing and protecting and serving the community are the same people who are in the community. Black people are in a unique situation in that field. So I'm proud of people like Major Shorter who've taken on this particular profession, because the reality of the matter is the best people to protect and serve you are the people who know you. Anytime we consistently request that others police us better, that we've got to change policing, rather than saying that we've got to become the police and then we can guarantee that we can police ourselves better, which is essentially what the Irish did. In the 1920s and 30s, the Irish felt like they were being treated wrongly by the police, that they were being arrested. So they made a conscious decision to take over politics and policing. As we know, we had O'Malley, Norris here. If you go across the nation, you'll see police chiefs are Irish. That was a strategic decision. That wasn't an emotional decision. That was a strategic decision, because they believed that if in fact they could control policing, they could control whether their people got criminal records. They could still hand out consequences and repercussions for those who were committing violent crime, because they deserve that, but they would be making the decision about their community and the communities they're policing. They saw policing as a very noble field, because the goal was to protect and serve, and nobody wanted their mother or their grandmother or their daughter or their son shot, harmed, raped, robbed. Nobody wanted that. So it was a very noble profession. But what happened in Black communities is it became a matter of control rather than a matter of protect and serve, because others came in. And so I consistently look at this. And, you know, when Kathy Pugh was mayor of Baltimore, she came to me and she said, Doc, you got to develop an organic policing model where we begin to develop young people from a very early age, from kindergarten all the way through, so that they can come to police their own community, so they can protect their own grandmothers and mothers, and so they can have the authority invested in them, along with a career, along with a salary to take care of the financial end. But nowhere else in the world do we ask other people to come in and protect and serve us, except in our particular community. So that happened a great deal. It happened during the 60s, because whether you look at the uprising and the rebellion in Warsaw and Detroit and other places, the objective of policing in all those particular situations was to come in and control the community, not to come in and protect and serve. And that's what we're facing in our community. So Isaiah and Elijah all said that early on, they began to see the police as the opposition. And reality of the matter is, initially, when policing came into Black communities, they were actually the opposition. It's not a perception, it's a reality. It's a reality that, as Major Shorter said, we're working diligently to change. But in order to change that, we're going to have to become a part of the very thing that serve and protect our communities. Because then when someone is arrested in our community, if Major Shorter is the person making the arrest, I know that after he secures the arrest, I can say, Major Shorter, what you arrest this kid for? He may say, Doc, he's Chester the child molester. Or Doc, he's committed a murder. Or Doc, he tried to rape a little girl in the alley. Then I'm gonna say, Major Shorter, that's a good thing. I'm glad you're here. But the reality of the matter is, because people see our communities as places to be controlled, a lot of time when police officers come in and we ask them why they made an arrest, they said, it's none of your business, get back, it's police business. Well, police business is the people's business because the police are there to protect and serve the people. We can't counter that which we do not fully understand. Our young people don't fully understand that the profession of policing was designed to protect and serve. As you indicated, Captain, Black police officers up into the 1960s, even here in Baltimore, could only arrest Black people. So they were very clear that their role and their goal was to protect and serve the Black community because they couldn't arrest white people. So they went into the field to protect and serve the Black community. That has changed over time, where sometimes with Black officers, not all Black officers clearly, but sometimes with Black officers, they become more blue than Black. And then we can't tell the difference. All we see is the uniform and the police, as Isaiah and Elijah said. And then when we see the police, we automatically say, we don't care what color their skin is, because that's been our perception, our reality. And reality is that's been the history of policing in the United States. Again, the Irish took over policing. They made a strategic decision to take over policing. The term paddy wagon is an Irish term because the Irish have decided that when our people get in a fight, because they said they were oppressed and depressed, so they would get angry and fight sometime. We're gonna go pick them up and take them home. We can't pick them up and take them to jail for a petty violation because they're gonna get a criminal record, they're gonna get convicted, which is gonna keep them from ever getting this job. It's gonna hurt them if they ever try to run for a political position. It's gonna hurt them if they ever try to get a top secret clearance in any of the federal agencies. So we're not going to disenfranchise our own people for petty violations. So they took over policing strategically so that they could have the discretion and the decisions about how they were going to deal with the misdeeds in their community. And that's what we haven't done. And that's what we're hoping to get to. And I would say to the people who are applying for funding, who are trying to change our community, who are dealing with youth violence, who are dealing with policing, you got to know this history. You just can't come in and get the money and put together a program that doesn't have this history. Because if you don't know the origin of something, you really can't treat it. When you go to the doctor for any kind of sickness, he said, when did you start feeling this way? When was the start of this? When did you first get this headache? So you can't just come up with a remedy without understanding the origin. And all too often in our community, and even with dealing with policing, we don't know when the transition happened from policing to law enforcement. And it happened when Black communities begin to assert their right under the 50s and the 1960s, we stopped calling it policing and called it law enforcement. We've got to know that history so we can undo the mess, take control of our communities and positions of authority so we can address those issues, even as we are addressing the other issues that are key and at the foundation, like education and poverty and economic development. So we can have organizations begin to look at this new infrastructure bill so we can start getting our young people ready to be welders because they can become extremely financially sound welding every day with this new infrastructure bill, so people can address that. We are kind of a nation within a nation, a colony within a nation, so we have to have different groups address different parts of this, but it's still all the same quilt.
Yes, sir. I love that, Doc. Man, you said so much, and I'm glad this is being recorded because we're going to make a study out of this right here, and we're going to use this in a school system, as well as juvenile justice, the facilities. So I want to thank you for that beautiful answer, Doc. So we're going to go right to Elijah. Elijah, so, you know, I spent 9 years in juvenile justice, dealing with them young brothers from the ages of 11 to 21. And some of them came down there with murders, tent murders, carjackings, you know, handgun violations, you know, all the heavy charges, felonies. And then some of them just had basically violation of probation. Some of them had truancy, they wasn't going to school. Some of them was, fights, assault, drug dealing, of course. But by you growing up around Monument Street and you seeing what's taking place, and that's a rough neighborhood for the people who don't know. Monument Street, where you call down the hill, that's a rough neighborhood. Most people from Baltimore that's in West Baltimore have never been to East Monument Street, have never been over there, and don't plan to go over there either. They don't even want to drive through there, right? So from a mental health standpoint and from a trauma standpoint, you had to deal with that. And so how do we help these young brothers out that experience that kind of environment and went through different situations where they saw somebody being shot down or being taken away by the police officer? It could have been their mother or their father or their aunt or their uncle, and and that impacts their mind. And then they begin to make reckless decisions that ultimately, impact their entire life. So educate us on how you was able to navigate through that process, and then because we want to help the young people that's on today as well. So talk to us, little brother.
So growing up down the hill, you see many things, as you would in most dangerous neighborhoods in Baltimore City. And you see things with the police, but you also see violence coming from rival neighborhoods, because when you live in a neighborhood and your neighborhood is in beef with another neighborhood, sometimes they don't care that you're not on the corner. If you of age, you part of that neighborhood. And so you see many things. But what I would say is that far as a Tendare perspective, it's like a three-pronged issue. So we deal with an issue of identity, we deal with an issue of brotherhood, but we also deal with an issue of economics. And so in order for our young people, Black boys specifically, to navigate through this neighborhood, we have to, when you're getting off of something, they say you have to change people, places, and things. And so in order for us to have better outcomes for our young men, we have to initiate them into righteous brotherhoods. And so part of the work Tendare Family does is that we put young men into rites of passage programs where they find a different set of brothers that's committed to different things. Because our young men, the reason they're attracted to the streets and they're attracted to the block is because a lot of them don't grow up without fathers, and they grow up in broken homes. And so this block, this neighborhood, this is all I got, this is who I am. But they don't have somebody to tell them that's not who you are. You are a Black man, and what does it mean to be Black? And not telling them the history of what it means to be a Black man as modeled for them by Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X and Fred Hampton. And you tell them that, you don't got to ride and die for this block, but you could raise this block. You could change this block. You could transform this neighborhood so that how you got a homeboy that got killed, that never has to happen again because of the work you put in. See, they're not offered that as manhood, as real manhood. They offered real niggerism. Excuse my language. And so for me, we have to give them identity, initiate the young men into rites of passage programs where they meet young men that are being taught that to be a true warrior, to be a true soldier, you putting on for your block in a real way, not destroying your own community. So the block that you claiming, you saying, oh yeah, we B Street and that's A Street. Those are artificial identities, and your real identity as a Black man, you gotta put on for Black people and raise Black people like those people that came before you. So introduce them to identity, put them through rites of passage programming. And also the last piece is provide them economics. So you can have the identity, you can have a positive brotherhood, but also we get involved in the streets because of economics. And so that is another thing that we have to do. You have to be able to connect them to programming or provide programming that gets them the economics, or else they always going to be able to say, well, I'm on this corner because I got to feed my family. And some of them are on the corner because you got to feed the family. But even when I was growing up in the neighborhood, there's some people that's on the corner because they got to feed the family. And there's other brothers that's on the corner because it's boys on the corner that got to feed their family. And they want to be cool. They want the Louis belt. The girls are attracted to it. So they out there and they get hurt. But the point is, we got to connect them, righteous brotherhoods, rites of passage programming, and economics. They got to know who they are, and they got to be able to provide for themselves. And I would say the best way to help our young men to provide for themselves is teach them who they are and their duty to their community. Like it's your duty to fix down the hill if you're from down the hill. You got to make it so it never happened. Violence never happened in your neighborhood again. And then what my opinion is, the best way to give them economics is train them with the skills to be able to do something about those issues so that we don't need nonprofits outside of our community. So the people that are doing the nonprofit type work, like a We Are Us or the Safe Streets model, is the people that's from the community and live in the community. So if you want to help curb violence, raise the people and train the people to get the money and get the funding to be able to fix the problems that they become passionate about by learning that they have a duty to their community. So brotherhood, identity, economics.
Sir, brotherhood, identity, economics. Yes, sir. And I seen, man, we're getting a lot of feedback too. And I see a lot of the great comments from David, Lisa, Tyreek. Man, thank y'all, Sanaya. Thank y'all for the comments. Thank y'all for the feedback. And we have several questions in the Q&A. We're going to get to them in a couple more minutes. So I don't want y'all to think we're not going to answer them questions. We will be getting to them questions. Thank you, Brother Elijah. And we want everybody to know once again, on Friday, the TA session will start on at 10 a.m. and it's going to be a discussion. It won't be like this. We'll be able to see everybody and we'll have discussions around this topic as well. And then also, this is not, our goal is to educate everyone on every aspect of the Baltimore youth and police violence. This is not a session where we beating the police down, because that's not going to help our young people. The goal is to educate our young people so they won't get caught up in the streets. They won't get caught up in police handcuffs, and then they know how to navigate through, some of these terrible situations and environments that they are faced with every single day. So thank you for that. So Brother Isaiah, we want to keep it right on the education piece, because I know your hands are full at Connections, and I know, every school can use more men. I know that. I'm in several schools, and even in some of the best schools where you think it's quiet, it's always a young man that needs some help. Something could be taking place at his house that we don't know about. So somebody always need help. So how should we teach and train young men to be able to navigate through the environment? So an example, Isaiah, just in the 1600 block of North Port Street, I got two young brothers over there that we've been helping out, I want to say, for the last 6 months. But the minute when they wake up, the entire block is vacant. It's vacant. And we talked about when they open the refrigerator, there's nothing in there. But when they come out that front door, they got to go to school 5 days a week. They got to go to your school. Their mother is doing her best. The fathers are not there. They don't have the tennis shoes that they want. They don't have the clothes that they want. And we already talked about the food. And then, of course, the house is clean, but when they wake up, they the only house on the block. And this is the best that their mother can afford. And this is a real situation, what we're talking about. So, and we have many cases like that. And these young men are not being helped because we don't have enough men in the schools. So what do we do, or what's your approach to educate as many as young men to change the mentality that, man, look, I need some damn money, I need some damn tennis shoes, I need some damn food. How do we help them that mentality so Major Shorter won't have to lock him up or lock them up? Help us to educate the 30 young men that we have on here, Brother Isaiah.
No, absolutely. No, that's a serious question, bro, Cat. A lot of times people ask that question to themselves without an answer to it. But I want to start right here, then I want to go back. When you talked about those two young men on the 1600 block of Port Street, right? If you take those young men, when they come to school, they may have behavior issues. But we got to understand those behavior issues didn't start the minute they walked inside of that building. All of those issues that you said, maybe more, they may be taking care of their little brother and all of this other stuff that may be going on that affects why they act like that in the school. So that those inside of the school system can't be so quick to just send them home, can't be so quick to just give them disciplinary actions. We have to figure out what's wrong with them and try to see what we can do to help as much as we can. That's why in certain schools, you have people that are community-based, meaning if something's wrong, we're gonna get together with the food bank to try to get you some food. I reached out to Sister today because I saw a young girl, she was wearing the same shoes since the beginning of the school year. They were run down. I was calling to see how we could assist her because that may help her confidence, and then she may be able to want to stay in class. That may be one of the reasons why she's not in class, because she feels like she's not up to par. So if we go all the way back to the beginning of what the student does as soon as they wake up, as soon as they wake up, the first thing they do, and I took a poll, first thing they do is they grab that phone and get on social media. When they're scrolling up and down social media, which we were taught as an acronym, media, MEDIA, the most effective distraction in America. When they scrolling, what are they looking at? They looking at filth, decadence, negativity, all types of stuff as soon as they grab that phone. So as soon as they do that, then they put on their headphones. What are they listening to? What they listening to is basically the sound version of what they just saw on social media. Then when they walk outside of the door, what are they experiencing? They're experiencing what they just saw on social media and what they just listened to. So then when that child goes into school, how do you expect them to focus properly inside of the school? So then when that child's getting to class, they're so distracted by everything that they just heard or everything that they just saw or everything that they just experienced. They're not interested in school. They're looking on social media and see everybody riding around with the big cars and the fancy jewelries and the watch. They want that. So they don't feel that school and education can get them that. But the drug dealer got an S550. The drug dealer got a Rolex. The drug dealer got flashy jewelry. And the young men are attracted to that like moth are attracted to light. So what do? We have to sit there, like Brother Elijah said, we got to teach them about their identity. Who are you? Who were you before you were broke down? You got to educate our young men about who they are, and then they start holding themselves at a higher standard. So then it makes it easier for those that are in the police system to not deal with those young men because they're not the quote unquote status quo. They're educated about who they are, but they're also educated about the police and what they have to do. They got a job they have to do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stay out of their way so I don't have any conversations with them. If I do have a conversation with them, it's a positive conversation, build out the foundation of trying to do something greater. So I think it just starts with educating our children, finding why do these children act like that? What is the root of their behaviors? And once we establish that and understand that, then we can move forward with our youth.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I want to give a special shout out to the Baltimore City Youth Fund once again. I hope the president is on. Brother Tafari, let us know. We always want to let her share a few words. Then also I want to give a shout out to Sister Destiny, Mook, Shakira, and Zion. Thank y'all for y'all continued feedback in the chat. The lines are lit up, so we appreciate all the feedback, and we're going to get to y'all with the questions in a few minutes. Major Shorter, you next up, sir. Major, what trainings are being used to increase positive interactions between police officers and youth? How should the jobs of city police and school police be organized so they can have more positive relationships with children and youth?
So I'll start off with, it's about education, right? Some of the training that we do through the consent decree and education and training are de-escalation training. And to me, de-escalation is just another for having a conversation and understanding why you are where you are and how we can do what we can do to get you into a better space or place. Police, as well as a lot of the young men that we encounter and young women, right? A lot of us grew up fatherless, looking for a safe haven. So when you join a profession, and some of us have born into a lineage of law enforcement, you're looking for the same thing that the young man in the corner is looking for. You're looking for the same thing that Elijah was looking for, or Isaiah was looking for, you know, someone to protect you. Part of the protection is the educational piece. We have to understand that both sides have been given a mindset of how things should be. So the history of Baltimore, as Dr. Powell was talking about, is essential and is key for everyone to understand what law enforcement and what policing is really about. Some of the programs that I talked about are the foot patrols, are the community-based programs, like the Police Explorers. When I had the youth and community section, we did a program called Love You to Life. We took 50 young men and young girls to various camps throughout the state of Maryland. They didn't know we were police, they just thought we were counselors. And it's about changing that vision, changing that paradigm, changing that seed that was planted years ago about what the vision or what the idea of a police officer is. And at the end of the week, we had the day called a reveal day. So we came while they had their concert, 92Q would come out, or different DJs would come on and play music. We would sneak away and come back as in our uniforms. And the different emotions that it was experienced, whether it was anger because they felt like we lied to them, whether it was hurt because they felt like I really found someone that I cared about, that I could open to and love, and they're a police officer. Or whether it was a sense of just sitting there because they just didn't know what to do, right? And sometimes when you don't know what to do, that's just as bad as just doing nothing at all. So those are some of the intervention programs that we talk about, but I also talk about the mentorship program. We have police officers who are basketball coaches, who are football coaches. We had a youth football league that every district commander was responsible for putting together a football team from the youth in his community, and the police officers were coaches. We had 9 different teams along the city, and that created a further bridge, because as we talked about earlier, and if you're from Baltimore, you know, East don't go west, West don't go east. But those teams in all 9 districts created camaraderie along the lines. If you go to the Ravens Stadium, you have 80,000 people in the stadium, right? Race is not an issue. Religion is not an issue. Gender is not an issue. They just all there because they love the Ravens. So when you come together and you bring the people together for a common enjoyment, right? If you want to call it that, minds change. I also often talk about to my youth that I talk to, when you are sick, you go to the doctors, right? You look for a diagnosis, and the doctor gives you a diagnosis, and you take that diagnosis to get cured. Well, my doctor is the community, and my cure is the information that they give to me, which allows me to go back to the police department, right? And when you change your diet, you change how you move. And when you change how you move, a lot of different, especially how people see you, because your appearance changes. So those are some of the things that we do, that I do. I walk with y'all as much as I can, as much as my job will allow you to, right? And so I'll say maybe 18 months ago, nobody even knew I was a police officer. Y'all said, man, you gotta at some point tell him, right? And they were like, no, not him. No, they were like shocked, like, no, he can't be no police. And it's stuff like that, right? To change that image. Like I tell a story about a young kid that I mentored a few years. We did the Love Life, and I walked into him a few years later. He didn't want to talk to me because he didn't know where I was, but he explained to me, bro, it's the mask. When you put the uniform on, it's the mask. I don't see anything but the uniform, so it's the mask. So from that point on, I tried to put myself in situations to present me who I am before I put that uniform on, because I didn't want the wrong mask to be on. I wanted him to look through life and see things the same way I see them. If you look back as Dr. Powers, I learn a lot from him every time I hear him. So one of the things that I wrote about in college was the black and white police cars, right? It's supposed to symbolize different things, but it depends on what side of the side of the road looking at it from. From the community side, it may look like it's the black versus the white. Some police officers are taught that, you know, it's about the black and the white ink that's put on the black ink that's on a white paper, that's the letter of the law. And that's what we must follow. But you have to find a divide, you have to find a middle where everybody understands what that really means. So my goal every day is to change that vision, that it's not black or white, get rid of the gray and just look at things. People tell me I look at things in black and white, and I've been learning every day to look at things in color, because color gives you a lot more definition of what you're supposed to see and the things that are in front of you. So we have a lot of different initiatives, youth-based, the Explorers, our de-escalation programs, the Chaplains program, the community ride-alongs. You can go to any police station and ask to do a ride-along with a police officer. If you have a warrant, I would say don't go, because they're going to run your information, so you may have come up to some difficulties, right? But it's an opportunity for everyone, especially with COVID. You know, people may be a little worried, so you may want to give them a little notice. But those are some things that you can do. The church is a big help to us for those chaplains who participate and become police chaplains, because they come in, right? They help us break that cycle of violence internally. So we have to repair ourselves on both sides of that sickness that we have, and just look at things differently, so we can move differently and people can see us differently.
Man, that was beautiful. And I just want everybody to know that Major Shorter is an active major in the Northern District, right?
Yes, sir.
We was very intentional about inviting him. As he said, he walks with us sometimes, and it's important that we promote good police officers. And I'm saying this again because we may need Major Shorter to lock up a rapist. We may need Major Shorter. Somebody may be breaking in your grandmother's house and you can't get over there, you know. So we need officers like that in our community. And I know we have some bad officers. We talked about this earlier. This is for the new people. I know we have some bad officers, but I believe if we continue to promote great officers like Major Shorter, you know, it's going to be it's going to continue to spread in our community. And then we know when we see a good officer, we hear a good officer, you know, we can thank him. So we appreciate you, Major, definitely. And that was a beautiful answer. Dr. Powers, you up next. And I want everybody to know directly after Dr. Powers speak, we're going to get into your questions, and we're going to go down the line and let our panelists ask your questions. So far we got about 7 or 8 questions already on there. Dr. Powers, so you talked about basically community and police, how we can connect the two, how we can make it work in our city, how the community needs to be trained, as well as the police officers need to be trained, and how we operate in the same space. So how do we create more positive environments for both, not just the police, but how do we create more positive environments for the community as well as the police officers? And then also, Dr. Powers, what do you see as the biggest needs and opportunities for police officers to be partners in the community? It's really one and the same.
Yeah, a couple of things. And again, this is an extraordinary group, and I'm hoping that the people are listening, and especially the people who will be applying for funding, are listening with an ear towards solution. And we're not just doing a rhetorical, philosophical, theoretical, abstract examination of these particular issues, because I think Isaiah and Elijah have given some concrete solutions. Obviously, Major Shorter, who's an extraordinary police officer. Not only do we have to support him, but we have to protect him, because he will be kind of the very officer that end up getting removed, and then other people who we don't necessarily need policing our community will be in the positions to do that. And policing is a very powerful, and I always say this, as I ran a police academy for a while, I taught in police academies, trained police officers across the nation. that the police in the United States of America are the only profession that have the legal authority to remove another human being from existence based on their training and their discretion. At the time that they do it, based on their training and prescription, they have the power. The president of the United States doesn't have the power to do that because of the Posse Comitatus Act. The military don't, unless you declare martial law. Short of that, police officers have an enormous amount of power. So unless your training and your selection process is tight and right, we always talk about how many people we're short in the police department. Listen, if you don't get quality people, it's better to be short, because if you just hire bad police officers and give them the authority to remove people from existence based on their discretion and training, and you're just trying to get the numbers up rather than get the quality and the quantity, you're going to cause more problems in the community. So every time I hear, whether it's in Baltimore City or across the nation, the goal of increasing the number of police officers, I need to hear in that the goal of increasing engaged, quality, conscious, well-trained police officers, because otherwise you're recruiting more people like the Gun Trace Task Force, unless you look at the quality as well as the numbers and not just the quantity. Other people have the luxury of talking about the quantity of police officers. Black people have to worry about the quality because our children walk these streets and we don't want them to become a victim of anyone. We don't want to become the victim of rapists and robbers and murderers, but we also don't want to become the victims of police officers. So we have a responsibility to make sure the police officers are good, just like we have a responsibility, as Isaiah and Elijah have said, to make sure that the people in the community are good. That's a very powerful position to be in, right? I want to go back just briefly to something, because I think it's very important, especially important for my mother who is in her 90s. I've never felt like, even though my father wasn't in the home, that we came from a broken home. My mother would constantly tell us, this home ain't broken. I'm rearing 6 children, all of them doing something great, whether they own their own businesses, whether you go off into law enforcement. So this ain't broken. Maybe it would be better if your father was here, but stop using the term broken, because when you say broken, you're trying to say that I've got something that somehow I'm responsible for it broke, and none of you are broke. And if I put that philosophy in your head, it will manifest itself in your actions. When I went for delegation to Cuba to study their education system and to study their criminal justice system, one of the things that one of the leaders said to us down in Cuba, one of the questions that came from a lawyer from California who were part of the delegation, he was saying, how can you have so much poverty? Most of it instigated by the sanctions put on Cuba by the United States. Cuba is only 90 miles from the shore of the United States, so they should have a thriving economy, to be quite frank with you, except for the sanctions. But what the Cuban said to me is that we don't connect material wealth with academic ability. He said, in your country, you automatically tell children every single day, if you poor, you can't be smart. We make a disconnect because we know we have poverty here. And we believe that if, in fact, you don't have a job, you have more time to read. And he said, even in your country, you have Enoch Pratt free library. You don't even have to have a job. So he said, what our language to our young people on a consistent everyday basis, the redundancy of telling them you're not broken, you're not from a broken home, you're not from a broken community. These are things you have to overcome, but using a terminology, because the way we receive words is different from the way young people receive words. Captain, we talked about this all the time. You said where you are today, hearing some of the things you hear today, you weren't hearing them and comprehending them the same when you were 21. We talked about yesterday, young people learn from observation, participation, and demonstration. And the last way they learn is a whole lot of conversation. If you keep telling them it's broken and you're acting like you're broken, I remember when I used to come home from work and with my children, and even if I was dead tired, I never came in the house saying I'm tired, the white man beat me down, because they got that. I came in the house up, even if I was tired. If I was gonna collapse, I was gonna collapse in the bedroom. I came up, excited, let's go, I'm good, I'm strong, because they, especially young boys, they visualize your strength and say, if you want me to be like you and you come home every day broken down and I'm getting this education so I can come home every day broken down, they see it. They're very visual learners. So we have to demonstrate that. We talk about policing. We have to demonstrate strong, correct policing with integrity in our community. And that means more of us gonna have to take on these policing roles like Major Shorter. You can't ask other people to police you right when you have the ability to join the police department and police yourself. Nobody in the world asks other people to serve and protect them on the same level that we do in our communities. Again, I understand the antagonistic relationship between police and the community. Certainly I dealt with that as a special agent with the FBI, which is a whole nother conversation. But we can't cut up our nose to spite our face. We can't say we hate that profession so much we're not going to become a part of it, because then the people in that profession who do not want you to become a part of it, who want to control and police your community, will get exactly what they want. You'll think you're being wise, but you're being emotional and they're being strategic. You'll say, I'm not touching that. And they will say, good thing, don't touch that. Leave this to us. Leave the business of locking up, controlling, arresting, giving people criminal records, disenfranchising people. Leave that business to us, hate it, and move away from it. So we've got to kind of think differently. We can bridge that gap between the police and the community. Again, early on in elementary, we know when children leave the womb, when they're young, they are so ready to learn. They are asking us questions that we get frustrated about. Why is the sky blue? And what we do, we send them sit in front of the PlayStation and the Xbox, right? They're asking questions. If in fact we engage them at that point, as Isaiah and Elijah is talking about, build them up, talking about the difference between intellect and material wealth, and how material wealth can go away, but your intellect will be with you forever. And you can get material wealth through your intellect, but you can't, but the rest of that won't last forever. If we have those conversations, if we understand that the people we're bringing into policing has to be socialized to protect and serve a community rather than to use force against a community. Think about this. The male brain physiologically don't fully develop until it's 26. We are asking people to join the police department at 21. Their brains are not even fully developed. So unless your training and your socialization process is tight and right, some people are socialized in communities that hate Black people. We recruit them in the police department, and somehow we think because they put on a uniform, all of a sudden we're going to do a group hug. That has to be a part. You have to, in your training, you have to come to the realization that some of the people you're bringing in have been socialized to hate the very people where they're getting this job from. They're not here for a noble reason. They're here for a salary. And so your training has to compensate for that. Your engagement with people like Elijah, Isaiah, and Major Shorter have to compensate for that. And we don't have the luxury. I know the funding requests. I know the nonprofit organizations. We don't have the luxury of just having long-term plans. We have to have plans for the immediate, for the midterm and the long term, because what we're witnessing as a people and what mothers and fathers are feeling with this violence is happening now. We don't have the plan to lay out a 10-year plan. We do need that, but we need something immediate. And to be quite frank with you, strong leadership can put immediate plans in effect that mitigate the impact of years of bad policing, years of miseducation, and years of economic deprivation.
Thank you. I'm glad this is being recorded. Thank you, Dr. Powers. Man, and hey Doc, and I just want to say this real quick. You said you made a lot of great points, but I think one of the taboos with our community is young men. A lot of young men don't want to be police officers now because of what they see and what they hear. The culture, right? And I know we always promoting young men in our community to go into law enforcement so they can help protect our community and be good examples for our sons and our daughters. And then we can and like you said, you want the people that look like you and had been raised in your community and familiar with who you are as an individual. They'll serve you better. And I think that's one of the biggest issues in our community, the culture and the mentality that's being displayed, that our children don't want to be cops no more. Our teenagers don't want to be police no more. They don't believe in protecting and serving their own community. And it's important that we have leaders like Major Shorter, so we can put them out in the front so our young men can see that it's okay to be a police officer. It's okay to help to clean our community up. And you don't just have to lock young men up. You can teach and train them and turn them over to people like us so we can help them. And we don't have to send them to juvenile justice. You can send them, give them to me, give them to us, and we'll help them and develop them with the proper resources and guidance. So, man, thank you for that, Doc. I just seen the president respond. Miss Alicia, are you on? Can you bring up Jafari? Thought I seen anyway.
Yep, let me try to bring her up now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, she said in the chat she's here.
Yeah, if she's able to speak, I don't want to force her to speak. I just want to give her respect and honor.
Thank you so much, Captain. What's going on with my camera? Let me leave and come back under another account. I'll be back in 4 minutes. So
Okay, yeah.
I'll speak then. Perfect. I'll be
No
back.
problem.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to a question. And then, okay, this is directly for you, brother, Dr. Powers. Hi, Mr. Tyrone. Is there any way we can set up a program to rehabilitate the people who have made mistakes and had run-ins with the law?
I think that there are a number of those programs already in the community. I'm hoping, and of course, us know about it, and Dr. Phil and Isaiah and Elijah and Major Shorter. I think we just got to connect the people to guide them to those programs and to identify the programs that are effective and the programs that are just designed to give money and grant money, because they exist too. And we have to be real and practical about that. Some people make a living off nonprofit grants and not necessarily change the people who they are supposed to change. So I think we don't have to create a program for that. I think there are numerous programs. They don't get the media attention because usually when media attention is pointed towards us, it's in the negative. I think we have to develop a way to guide the people to the appropriate programs with integrity, programs with people who have the knowledge. Again, Isaiah, Elijah, Major Shorter, what you're doing, Captain Andrew, what I think we just got to guide them to their, I don't think we have to duplicate everything. We just have to guide people to the right programs, because sometimes we can have so many programs that it's chaos. You're competing against the different programs when in reality, you should unify with them and we would be much stronger and point in the right direction. I'm sure there'll be some follow-up from this particular session with the Baltimore City Youth Fund and with Baltimore Brothers. It will give people that information and guide them in that direction so that you can put them in people who you have faith in, because we can't always just recommend because it exists or say check the directory. In our community, you know, personal recommendations is important. If I tell Brother Elijah, talk to this brother, he's going to expect that I've already vetted that brother and I'm not sending him to somebody who's just going to pull the flim-flam on.
Hey, Doc, somebody mentioned Turnaround Tuesday. You know, we are us when we walk. We have those employment resources. As I help create and rebuild the police department's reentry program, I have access to 60 to 70 different service providers who look for returning citizens. So I put my information in the chat. If anybody wants to send me an email, I can send them in that right direction. And you can just let them know that I referred you. And you just have you halfway there. You muted. Hey, Andrew, you muted.
Thank you for responding to that, Major. And then also, I like how Mook said he would he wanted to be a police officer at one point until he's seen all the police brutality, but he want to sit down and talk to you now. So that's what this meeting is for, to give our young people insight. And then knowing there's other good people out here. So go right ahead, Miss Alicia. Great to see you.
Great to see you, Captain. Great to see you, Captain Andrew, and all of our speakers tonight.
Yeah, hold on. Let me just give you a compliment. You always look beautiful. So it's an honor to have you on. See your pretty smile. So thank you for taking a few minutes out your busy schedule. And we appreciate you. Go right ahead, Ms. Lee.
Oh yeah, there's no place I'd rather be tonight than here with all of you. This is this series has continued just to be an incredible resource to our city. So we're so grateful, Captain Andrew and Baltimore Brothers, for curating these 13 weeks of programming. It's really been phenomenal. And it's conversations like this one tonight, you know, where we can be honest about some of the fears we have because of what we've seen. And we can also be honest about our desire to heal and to come together as a community. So this is the beginning of that. These kinds of conversations, these kinds of sessions are the beginning of that healing and that transformation that occurs so our communities can be whole. So thank you so much, Captain Andrew, for leading this space. And thank you so much. I see you, Dr. Lease, there too. Yes. And to all of our speakers and guests tonight, we are really grateful to have you here. And thank you again for your generosity and sharing.
Ms. Alicia, do you also want to just say, because the Youth Fund now has training around grant application writing and other things that help.
Yes, actually, yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Lee. So I'm coming to you late because I was just at we had a training at 6. So we have, of course, the Grassroots Fund is open. So if you are a youth serving organization that is centered in Baltimore City and you have a budget under $250,000, we invite you to apply for the Grassroots Fund. The grant portal will open on April 15th, so just 9 days away. We're really excited to be able to give about 35 organizations grants, 3-year grants that will total $150,000. We're really excited about that. And also, if you have a youth serving organization that's outside of those parameters, you can still attend the 120 hours of technical assistance that's being provided. You can get some skills in budget writing, elevating your narrative writing, thinking about metrics, right? So developing your programs. BCYF is here as a resource to youth serving organizations throughout the city. Funding and receiving grant funds is one way that you can be a part of this community. Attending events like this one tonight is another, and also then being a benefactor of all of the technical assistance that we'll be offering for the next few weeks. So please stop in. We have in-person, online, and everything in between. And we're here to help. We're here to serve you as a community and excited to be here. Thanks, Dr. Lee, for letting me give that little plug. And that calendar of trainings is right in the chat. All right. Bravo.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. President.
Thank you.
Dr. Leaf, well, not, how you pronounce his name? I think it's Jahaki Murphy said, I always feared the police. I remember when I was younger, a police officer pulled my father over and I was crying because I thought they were going to hurt us. That's deep right there. That's deep right there. I think, Major, you should meet with him as well, too. Him and Mook. So you should put your information in the chat, Major, so they can at least email you.
Yeah, email me, then we'll set it up, and then we'll go from there. And like I said, the more the merrier. And if I can just spread some of the information about where we are and how we got to where we are. And okay, she is a girl. Okay, that's fine. And what we can do, because we love women as well. So my experience in law enforcement has showed me that men are raised to be tough, right? We rarely connect without the softer side. We rarely connect with the side that's compassionate, but they bring that to law enforcement. So the balance is always needed. People talking about, you know, the mark of a great man is a woman that's behind him. I say it's a woman that's beside him and a woman that's around him, because it allows him to connect with them in a different way, and vice versa. It allows them to see how they can sometimes, you know, not be a victim. Stand up for yourself. Don't let a man just bully you over. Allow yourself to have a voice and put yourself in a situation where men will listen to what you say.
Excellent, thank you. And then it's an anonymous person. I would love to be present for the small group session, Baltimore Youth and Police Violence session, but the time is inconvenient. Will there be other sessions? Yes, so Friday at 10 a.m., Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous, you're more than welcome to be on. Jafari put it in the chat already. You can register for Friday session at 10 a.m. It's 2 hours, and where it's an open discussion about this subject at hand. And then also peace as a holistic practitioner.
Captain, before you go to that, I think she was saying that time's not convenient. There's a couple of technical assistants that we're going to be setting up on the Saturday times.
Oh, okay. Well, if she wants, you said it's a woman, Doc?
I don't know. It's an anonymous.
I heard you say she. That's why I said that.
He or she.
Yeah, just whoever it is, just email us at Baltimore.
We'll set something up.
What you say, Doc?
It is a he. Okay.
You put your emails in the chat. If you email us, we'll get back to you to figure out some way we can be supportive.
Yeah, just email Baltimore Brothers and our team will get back to you. Thank you. Let me see. T. Lambert, peace as a holistic practitioner and youth advocate. How can we create a mindfulness program in or out of school? Isaiah, you want to answer that? I'm gonna read it to you again. Peace as a holistic practitioner and youth advocate. How can we create a mindfulness program in or out of school?
That's a good question. And I mean, it may sound simple to me, it just got to be creative. I mean, I hear that, you know, it may be some that have more experience in building it, but I think it should just test it out. We have many opportunities and many relationships with different schools where we can come together and strive to do it, because it's better just to try and fail than not to try at all. So I believe that it could happen. And if the one who asked the question has some type of framework or some understanding of it, I'm sure you can get together with myself and Baltimore Brothers, and we can just try to make something happen. I know my school that I work at, Connection, will be open to it. Over there, Principal Brooks and Mr. Elijah Etheridge, I'm sure they will be open to it. So whoever asks that question, please, you can email Baltimore Brothers, get in contact with myself, and we can strive to set something up.
Excellent, thank you. And our email address is in the chat. We definitely can partner with that. And Mr. Lambert, T. Lambert. So we have about 20 minutes left. We're gonna do one more round. And then if any questions pop up, we'll jump on the questions. Once again, I want to thank Baltimore City Youth. I want to thank Baltimore City Youth Fund for this opportunity. And I want to thank the Baltimore Brothers staff, Dr. Leaf, Brother Bilal, Sister Andrika, Brother Larry. And then also I want to thank the panelists once again for this awesome, incredible information that we'll be making a study out of for the juvenile facilities, as well as Baltimore City schools, and then our young people as well overall. Dr. Phil, did you want to add anything before we go to this last set of questions?
Just as Isaiah said, Holistic Life Foundation actually has created mindfulness programs both in Baltimore and other places. There's a number of other places that are doing mindfulness in the schools, and we'll try to track them down and then have it posted on the Baltimore Brothers website for people. And these are people in Baltimore that are doing really good jobs, that have demonstrated their effectiveness. And the positive thing about several of them is they hire young people to learn how to do those things. Some of those young people now, when they graduated from high school, actually are getting employed now to be delivering the mindfulness in the Baltimore City Public Schools. So they both benefited for themselves, but they actually make careers out of it.
Excellent, thanks, Doc. Bilal, you had your hand up. You can unmute yourself. If I'm not mistaken, it looked like Bilal had his hand up. Okay, we'll get back to him. All right, so Brother Elijah, I'm coming to you right now. All right, cool. So he didn't, I guess he didn't say anything.
No, I'm good.
Okay, you had your hand up, that's why.
Yeah, I didn't know.
All right. All right, Brother Elijah. So we kind of went through this question earlier, Brother Elijah, but I've been reading the chats, and a lot of people have been talking about the youth and how they've been how they had bad police experiences. And you talked about that yesterday. You talked about that a little today. And I believe we got a lot of great information about for the young, you and Isaiah, in regards to how young people, our youth, can conduct themselves and how they can maintain that behavior in environments such as the one you grew up in around Monument Street. So can you just reiterate that? Because like I said earlier, I know we have 30 young people on here, and I want to make sure they understand exactly what they're dealing with when they come out the house. And then also, if they need help, who should they talk to? like the young person said, you know, they was crying when their father got pulled over, or they was scared, they was concerned, they didn't know, you know. And then young people, they'll sometimes do something that it's a bad decision and regret it later on, but only because they didn't have no guidance. So can you talk about that again? Can you give us some guidance on that? You know, and I want you to speak directly to our young people.
So for the young people, you have to know that you growing up in neighborhoods where we're being programmed from an early age to already come out believing that you're the bad guy. You're already being programmed to believe by virtue of the media, the music, your environment, to tell you that this police officer or police in general, that they the cops and you the robbers in a real life cops and robbers game. And so even though you're not committing some crime yet, you already have in the back of your mind, you know, I might be doing something wrong, or I'm gonna be carted away. It's just a matter of time. I empathize and sympathize with the brothers and sisters that said, you know, they had family members that were locked up when I was growing up because my mother was addicted to some stuff. I've seen my mother be locked up and taken away from me. I've seen my brothers be locked up and taken away from me. I've been involved in inside the house for multiple house raids. In going through those experiences, you have to understand that those experiences are traumatic, and it makes you grow a hate and a dislike for police. And it makes you very, very either afraid or against police. And what I want you to know is that the neighborhood that you live in, whether it's Park Heights or West Side, East Baltimore, Cherry Hill, because you forget about Cherry Hill too much, wherever you are, I want you to know that that's your neighborhood. That when you walk out your house, you have to know that this is my neighborhood. Because sometimes you have some officers that are high on their horse, and it's a battle between who neighborhood is it. And so you have a police officer that may not even be from that neighborhood that's like, these are my streets. You got the boys that's on the corner like, no, these are our streets. And then you got you that's not doing nothing. You have to come out head held up high, knowing that this is your neighborhood, and know your rights, know your constitutional rights as a citizen, and know, because you need to know that, because when your rights are violated, you should go to the community grassroots organizations that's in your neighborhood. Today family, we most operate in East Baltimore, but I know the Rich program is in Cherry Hill. I know We Are Us is all over the city. You got the Peace Movement with EB that's out, I think, Emerson Village. So it's some grassroots organization that's in your neighborhood that you can go to and say, dang, I think my rights have been violated. And you may not have the personal connections, but that grassroots organization may know Major Shorter. That grassroots organization may have connections with other people and say, nah, this is a good young man, this is a good young woman. I'm gonna make sure that this situation get rectified. But I want you to know that that you're not a criminal. You're not a criminal waiting to happen, and you're not a criminal at all. In fact, none of us as Black people are inherently criminal. But you're being programmed to believe that to be real Black, you either a criminal or you're a criminal waiting to happen. You on some what's your Negro Wood stuff. So the thing is, it's like, I want you to know that you know, you're a righteous person, you're a noble person, and walk outside your house and carrying that with your head held up high. Real quick before I let somebody else go, in Tandea, we make young men and young women that go through our rites of passage program, we make them memorize a couple of things, but one of the things we have them to memorize, because it's important for them to know, important for young people to know, maybe you could take this with you, we ask the question, who are Black people? And the answer we give is that Black people are the children of a noble people, devoted mothers and loyal husbands of solid families, fearless warriors, protectors of true communities, wise kings and virtuous queens, leaders of noble nations. We are noble people who taught the world, but we have forgotten who we are. And the reason we make young people and even the members of Tandea memorize that is that you have to have that in your heart, in your spirit, as you walk around in your community, that I'm a noble man. I'm a righteous man. I come from a great people group. And so even if I see my brothers and sisters doing things off, that's not who we are. They just don't know who we are. But I'm beginning to know who I am, and I'm gonna carry myself accordingly. And when you carry yourself with that respect, people respect you, and those that don't respect you, you just know your proper channels to rectify that and hold those accountable for violating your rights.
Brother, thank you for that, man. Thank you for that. That was very important. Real, very simplistic question, answer, and it wasn't an easy one, but I know the information you just gave is going to help somebody. So thank you for that. Very, very important, Brother Elijah. Isaiah, I'm coming to you. This question, Isaiah, is really for our young people as well. And a lot of young people feel like the adults can't relate to them. You know, we don't listen to rap music. We're not on IG. We're not on Snapchat. We don't like to go out and party. And you can't relate to me. You know, a lot of young people think that way. And it's sometimes it's hard to reach them if an adult if an adult don't have the basic knowledge of just the language that they speak. And then also you know, social media plays a major role in their thinking, right? So how do we and then last thing I want to say, last thing I want to say is the disconnect, you know, inside the family, where the child or the teenager comes in the house, doesn't speak to the mother, doesn't speak to the father, doesn't speak to the grandmother, goes right in their room, shut the door, plays what is it? Five, the PS5, PS4, or be on that phone, the computer, laptop all day long. I mean, they just be in another world. How do we reach them individuals? And then also, how do we help the adults out, you know, that's on here listening as well?
Yes, sir. Serious question, just like the other ones. But this one, I believe, is a little bit more personal for not only just myself, but those listening as far as the adults and the children. But I would say one way to stop that, first of all, you have to understand both sides, the parent side and the child side. And we as a people, even if it's not our physical children, we can't change something we're not willing to confront. So a conversation has to be had. Now, in the household, I believe closing that gap is having conversations. First thing is, if a child is at school for 8 hours a day and you're at work for 8 hours a day, those 8 hours, the child is not around you, so they're learning something. So the first question should be, what did you learn in school today? When you figure out what they learned in school today, that already bridges a gap right there, because you ask them about what's going on. And then not only what did they learn in school today, what happened in school today? Because during that conversation, certain things can come out. Well, I heard somebody say this. I heard somebody say that. Somebody did this to me. Somebody did that to me, whether it be good or bad. And then a teaching moment can be right then and there as soon as they expose what happened to them. So those long car rides home, when you pick them up, you shouldn't have the music playing and they shouldn't have their headphones in. That should be a time to communicate. That should be a time to speak, which is funny. I'm gonna tell a story. Every single day, my wife picks my two sons up from daycare. One is 1 year old and one is 2 going on 3. So one day I picked the 2-year-old up and he sat in the back seat, and out of nowhere, he said, I had a whole bunch of fun today at school. I did this, I did that. And I look back like, why he started saying it out of nowhere? He said it out of nowhere because every single day when my wife picks him up, he said, did you have fun at daycare today? What did you do in daycare today? So he's already used to telling mommy about his day. So when daddy picked me up, daddy, I expect you to ask me about my day, but since you didn't, I'm gonna still tell you. So when those conversations are had, then we can start bridging that gap, and the children will feel more comfortable talking to the parents, because a lot of time when the children come to the parents, they already think the parents gonna judge them. See, that's why I told you not to do that. Man, you shouldn't do that. That's why you don't never listen. You hard-headed. So they feel shut in. They feel like they don't want to speak to the parent because the parent is always judging them. So instead of having those conversations to judge our children, we should have those conversations to try to build and understand our children more. So I think that's a method that could be used.
Excellent. A lot of chat on that response, bro. So that was excellent, and I like that. We gotta have them conversations. They saying, Ms. Phyllis, conversations with youth is necessary. Conversations can go so far. We definitely appreciate it. This is good food. Yeah, yes, sir. Good point. So this is what we have to do, and they won't have to. Major Shorter won't have to deal with them, because that stuff is in house. The police shouldn't have to deal with them kind of issues. We don't need the police for that. That needs to stay in the house, right? So, Major, we had several questions around how the young people felt like one of the gentlemen wanted to be a police officer, but he's seen some bad things happen in his community. Then the young lady seen something happen with her parents, and that triggered some things in her. What kind of advice, Major, can we get a youth that's on here tonight in regards to when they faced with a situation with a police officer and they felt like their rights have been violated and they're not sure what to do, or they just need some guidance, and they don't know the law, they don't know who to talk to. And you being a police officer and for almost 30 years, and you're in the community every single day, and you love helping out our youth. How do you help them young brothers and sisters that gave them responses? And what kind of advice that you can give our youth that's on here right now listening?
So first of all, people talk about our youth, our future, but I say our youth, our now, because if we don't correct the wrongs of what's going on right now, there is no future for it. In our community, in the Black community especially, violence is acceptable, but healing is taboo. And we must change that. We must shift that paradigm to healing is acceptable and violence is taboo. When you see something, I think oftentimes we talk about how can we help our youth, but what we forget to do is talk about the family structure, right? If I continually teach these young people how to do, but they go back home to a dysfunctional situation, they're going to go back to that seed that I planted will never be watered. So we must work on essentially the parents, right? Because if I don't fix the parents first, all they're going to do is dig up those seeds that I had and throw them away. So the first thing that I try to figure out is what's your home situation like, right? And parents, believe it or not, if I go in and I just say, they'll have a conversation, and I work on those things. If it's about drug addiction, if it's about mental health, if it's about employment, if it's about economics, those are the things that we must fix first. So before we tell a young man or young woman, if you see a police do something wrong, in your community, go talk to somebody about it. They should be able to go home first, right? They should be able to go home first. They should be able to go home first and talk about the things they saw. And they should be able to get that education from home. And home is where we all, as the whole community, right? We talk about a community. So the old African proverb is, if you don't give a child warmth, he'll burn it down, to burn the community down to get to feel that heat. That is real, right? So what we experiencing now is that young people burning down this community because they don't feel the heat, the love, and the warmth from home. They seek that love and attention from the wrong places and the wrong spaces and the wrong things. So I would say when they see those things, have conversations before those things happen with police officers. Walk up to them, ask them so you can know which police officers you could dialogue with. Why are you a police officer? Why are you in this community? If you lived in this community, what would you want to see from a police officer that patrol your community? There are numbers that they can call, and I'll put the numbers in the chat. There are text messages that you can send because children today are social media specialists, right? You can send all kind of information through various text messages, various social media mediums that you can share the information with the police department. Or if not, you can send it to me, as people call me, all day, all night. You call me to drop it. It can be 1 o'clock in the morning, right? If I don't get you 1 o'clock, I got you at 3 when I wake up. So I'm there. Hey, listen, like you said, I don't want to deal with them in that sense. So I turn them over to you. I turn them over to EB. I say, hey, can you reach out to Stokey? Can you send them to Elijah? Can you send them to Isaiah? I don't want to deal with them that way. And after you rehabilitate them through your way, then we can all sit down collectively talk about what they saw, their experience, and how we can bring more people in like them. And then I can bring more people in like me to fix those issues.
Yes, sir. And Major, we we want to play y'all, man, and I want you to get your five together, man. There's some football, basketball.
You don't want that.
We want to play y'all, man. I heard you say that. I don't think y'all can really run no more. I think y'all.
Hey, ask Penn North who got that Unity Bowl, who got their last trophy. Ask them about that.
I know who on Penn North. I was there Monday night. I seen the Penn North people. They need to get in rehab. You playing the wrong people. Come on, man. We're gonna get our team together, Isaiah. I ain't trying to hear that, man. All right, good stuff. All right, got about 10 minutes, Doc. We're gonna wrap this up. Dr. Powell, so hey Doc, one of the big things is happening right now in our city, and everybody notice around the violence. I mean, it's the continuous shooting, the continuous murder, the continuous carjacking, the continuous rape, robbery. Everything seemed like it's centered around drugs, money, guns. I mean, that's what the media, that's all you hear, from a media standpoint: guns, drugs, robbery, money, people taking ATM machines. It's just chaos, confusion. But we still got to live. We still got to operate. We still have to take care of our families. We still got to be safe. Give us some advice, some guidance as for the youth. And they because they on here, and our goal, our job is to give them the right information and some. So when they leave here tonight, Doc, they felt like they got some points that they can take away. In dealing with a city like Baltimore, where if you cut on the TV and the news, everything you see is just shooting and killing. I mean, I don't see no good in the city. I mean, on news and stuff. It's like it's no good is happening. I know that's not true. But help us out with this bombardment of everything that's taking place in our city, and how can we fix that and help our youth out?
Yeah, just very briefly, based on what Major Shorter and Isaiah and Elijah have said, and other people have said, there's an assumption that all people who are parents know how to parent. In New Jersey, I was associated with Dr. Anna Telefero, and she had the New Jersey Parenting Association, because she realized that I just can't ask parents to be good parents if they are young. No matter how the child got here, I've got to teach them how to do parents, because no one is going to come out and openly admit, because of our esteem, that I really don't know how to rear this child into adulthood without putting him or her in danger, whether it's male or female. So with the New Jersey Parent Association, they would have father-daughter sessions and workshops, father-son, mother-daughter sessions. And they wouldn't ask you whether you were a good parent or bad parent, because nobody wants to go through. I'm not judging you. I don't need an admission, but we need to teach people that. We can't make the assumption that people know how to take a child and guide them, which is a difficult situation, from childhood into adulthood. So I think we need to do that here. The funders may want to look at that too, creating some kind of association to teach parenting, and then bringing in these different sessions or different people like Elijah and Isaiah and Major and We Our Us and the other organizations to help with that process, because people don't raise their hand and say, I'm not good at this. We just have to put it in place, and then they will come without judging them or pointing them out or calling them out. And then we will have better parents and a better community without identifying anyone as a bad parent, because that judgment thing pushes more people away than it does drawing them in. The media, listen, we had 300 and some murders for the last 7 years. Horrific, horrible numbers. We have an increase in robberies, carjackings, and so on and so forth. But we still have to have a majority mentality. There's 600,000 people in the city of Baltimore, which means that despite the 300 murders, despite the devastation we see with their loss, the majority of people in the city are good people. They're working, they're thriving. There's the Isaiah, there's the Elijahs, there's the Captain Andrew Muhammad, there's Dr. Andre Bunley, who won the Center for African American Male Engagement. I mean, these things exist in this city. There are other organizations that never get any media attention. So even if, hypothetically speaking, let's just do this, and I'm not downplaying the violence or the robberies or the carjackings or the danger that exists on the streets of Baltimore and Philadelphia, the work I do in Chicago where they had 1,000 murders last year. I'm not downplaying that. But I also want to say this, be careful of the scapegoating that actually recruit young people into that kind of life because they believe this is the life. The majority of people in this city are good people. 600,000 people, even if you had 300 murders, even if you take out and say, well, that's 300 murders, but we have failed murders, which are shootings, we have robberies, let's say you have 1,000 people who need some intervention from Major Shorter and the police because they have to be consequences for their actions. That would still leave over 500 some thousand good people, and a majority of them Black. So let's not paint all people in this city as bad people. This city, there's mothers who are working 2 and 3 jobs to take care of their children. There's the work that Elijah and Isaiah is doing on a daily basis, night. And these are young men who could be doing all kind of sort of other things, could be partying every night and every day, but they've started organizations, started work, intervene in the lives of, let's give them some credit too, despite what we hear in the media. Listen, the teen suicide rate for Black teenagers across this nation have gone up 50%. So it ain't the fact that Black children are just killing each other, they're killing themselves. And we know for a fact that every child that leaves their mother's womb is a bundle of joy. So what takes you from your mother's womb to wanting to kill others or kill yourself? We never hear the media talk about the suicide rate because, to be quite frank with you, a homicide is a suicide outwardly. And reality of the matter is, because 9 times out of 10, you were expecting at some point you're going to get got too. You got someone else, you're going to get got. So it's a suicide bombing, but it just isn't termed that. What about the suicide rate among Black youth? What are we doing with that with our funders or people who are addressing this particular issue? The depression, the mental health issues, where we have young people, and notice this, the CDC says the age of young people committing suicide that's increasing is between the age of 7 and 13. What would make a Black child come into this world and by the age 7, not only want to leave this world, but understand how to take their life in this world? Right? Where's the funding for that? So because the media drive us towards the violence and we see the policing issues, we have to have the ability to research and prioritize the issues based on what we see, not just what is guided to us by the media. The suicide rate in many cases across this nation is as bad as the homicide rate, but I've never seen the media open a program at night talking about Black male suicide, Black female suicide, Black youth suicide, because then the funding would go other places to deal with those mental health issues, which if we don't address them, do lead to the kind of violence we're seeing on the street, do lead to the kind of miseducation or the belief that my only way to make it in this world is to take something from someone else, whether it be a robbery or a carjacking, because people are not directing me to. There has a new Clausen Center in Anne Arundel County where they're teaching people welding and guaranteeing them a job of 60, 70, 80,000 in 6 months. So I'm not even telling young people you got to wait to get a 4-year degree. I'm telling you there are programs that's developed that we should be directing them to right now that gives them an alternative that allow them to make a living and a life at the same time. We have a problem. We have a balance problem, no doubt about it. But again, the majority of people in Baltimore City and every city across this nation, the majority of Black people in this world are not committing violence. They're taking care of their children. They're feeding their family. They're working 3 and 4 jobs. They're doing the best they can to educate children in a failed education system. We've got to recognize that, and our programs have to be designed not only to address the children that are at risk, but the children that promise, and then connect the two. and change the narrative. The media never starts any news broadcast in the evening by the anchor raising their hand and saying, I promise that the news we give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But somehow we take it as the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, rather than creating our own truth. 600 to 700,000 people in the city, the majority of them Black, and the majority of them are not murderers, rapists, carjackers, or committing any crime. They're just trying to live. We've got to deal with the problems we have, but on the other hand, don't paint this veil of darkness, this veil, well, not even of darkness. I don't even want to use that metaphor because that's too close to Blackness, but don't paint this veil of devilishness over all the citizens of this city. And finally, again, I just want to come back to the fact that we have to create, we can't assume that everybody who have a child know how to parent. And without judging them, we have to teach them. You know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and they said, teach the people, don't beat the people. Because if you beat them, nobody's going to allow you to teach them. Teach them and don't beat them. Don't necessarily preach to them. I know preaching in churches are important. There are 2,000 churches in this city, but we still have 300 and some murders. So something is going around there. If preaching worked, and we would be preaching in school rather than teaching in school. Don't necessarily preach to them all the time, but teach them, guide them, intervene, and engage them because they want to do better. They were born to win. They're supposed to win. Their failure is our failure.
Hey, Kat, can I piggyback off of that real quick? Just to say, so one of the things that we, and a couple of my friends talk about, right, is that saying, is the juice worth the squeeze? Change the mindset, they get the juice without that squeeze, because the squeeze really hurts a lot of us. And the squeeze can put you in a pickle where you can't make any more decisions. The decision we made for you.
Thank you, Major. Man, that was powerful, Doc. I appreciate that. We're going to roll this over to Friday, so we can finish this off, and then this will be a discussion with everybody. This way we can see each other's faces, and then we can have a discussion back and forward, and we're going to get some solutions as well as some directives, so we can move forward. Because this was powerful for me. And I can't wait till they post this on YouTube so I can go back and study it. And I want to thank Dr. Deborah. I didn't get a chance. She's been Mama. I think that's a woman. If not, just Dr. Deborah. Forgive me if I'm wrong. And Karen and Andre as well for all your feedback. And then I like somebody, Kyrie. They have some kind of gun violence training on Thursdays. That's awesome. Put it in the session. Put your email in there, Kyrie. Travel so we can get some of that gun violence prevention training on Thursday. That's good stuff right there. Man, I want to thank the Baltimore City Youth Fund. I want to thank the president. I want to thank Jafari. Dr. Leaf, you want to let everybody know about Friday, Doc? I know you better than me with that, Doc.
Yeah, so Friday, again, it's really an opportunity. And if you know people who might want to just be involved in the conversation, they can catch up on the video of this some other time. But we really want to use that, not so much, as Cap said, not so much to be talking to you, but talking with you and facilitating discussions amongst you so that you'll be able to come out stronger, have better connections, and also have, and also your opportunities to be teaching us and letting us know about things. There's a lot of great information in the chat. And then also, I don't know whether we have the list, just the announcement for the next session also I think it's on the 20th, our next session on the Wednesday.
Yeah, man, somebody in the UK, it's 108 here in the UK, Gazia. It's the awesome, thank you for being with us. Man, we appreciate that. Great stuff to hear from 108 in the UK. Man, we must be doing something good, Jafari. Absolutely. 108. Man, I want to thank the powerful panelists, man. Man, y'all did an excellent job, bro. I'm telling you, I can break my fast now. At the 15 hours, man. Listen, man, this was excellent, man. Excellent. Thank y'all, man. Dr. Powers, Major Shorter, Brother Elijah, Brother Isaiah, man. Thank y'all. This was powerful. And then as Dr. Leaf said, please pay attention to the Baltimore City Youth Fund and Baltimore Brothers on IG, as well as Facebook and Twitter, so we can talk to you about this mental health piece on April the 20th. And we'll get more into that next week. we'll send it out. But go ahead, Brother Jafari. Jafari, thank you.
Absolutely, yeah, no, just again, following up on everything that's been said in the chat this evening, amazing discussion, important discussion. It reminds me of something that I believe I said the last session that I was on, quoting the journalist and political prisoner Mumia Abu-Jamal, when he said that if we say our young people are lost, it's our responsibility to go and get them. And definitely seeing brothers and folks on this call in the chat and participating, doing the work of relationship making, of going and getting our people. And so just want to again extend deep gratitude and appreciation for the work the people have been doing to hold it down and lift it up at the same time. Thank you, Captain Andrew, for being a great facilitator of these sessions. To the panelists, some of whom this is at least the second part of the sessions I've seen them on. Yeah, just what y'all bring to the table is incredible. So thank you so much to everyone in the audience. Again, please click that survey link and fill that out. If you liked it, let us know. If there's things that you think we can improve on, let us know. And the big thing, as Captain Andrew and others have said, please share this. Share your learnings, share your thoughts, share what you're working out, because this is a group project, bringing our people home. And so appreciate y'all. And
can I drop the safe chat in the chat box real quick? Someone asked if they could have the chat. Can I drop it in the box real quick?
I believe
Absolutely.
so.
Here we
Yep,
go. There
for
it is. I just needed
Boom.
30 more seconds. There you go. There's the chat.
Thank you very
Those
much.
resources. Sure, of course.
That chat was amazing. This is the most we ever had, to be honest with you. I'm just so thankful to have new people on, because the feedback was unreal, you know, and this, honestly, this was the most intense one as relates to that chat. I say that a lot, but I mean, I just think this was the most one. It's just the chats is unbelievable. I never seen that much. I couldn't even read it. It was so much. Man, thank y'all. Thank y'all very much. Good stuff. All right, go ahead, Jafar. I didn't mean to cut you off, bro.
Oh no, you're good. Hey, ain't no logical conclusion to a love fest. There's a lot of good stuff going on here. So again, I'm just gonna play some music to close us out. Thank y'all again. I'm gonna save the chat, and we are gonna get out of here. Again, please sign up for Friday's session, and go to bcyffund.org/events for all of the other upcoming events and things that we have going on. So take care, y'all, and we will catch you soon.
Yes, sir. See y'all. Thank you, everybody.
Black people unite.
Great show, everybody. Great show. Loved it. And then fire.
Black people unite.
Man, I can't wait.
What's wrong with that? I mean that. Black people
It's Black People Unite. It's by my group.
Fathom of people fracture, rattling bones of West
I think I'm going back
Africa.
on tour.
Trapped in a building that's chained to the diaspora. Passenger captured and framed and named hazardous. Tackled by catastrophe, tragedy paved the path for us. Lost on the shores, who but us could draw a map for us. Chorus when that cage burst sing. Another sad story. Pastor told me, Lord, see I play. Won't forsake us, though his face favors the same snakes that enslaved us. Tobacco in Mississippi, sugar cane in Jamaica. A European grave for Alka belong acres. An array of shots fired at an Audubon stage. Malcolm falls to his death before a crowd of black faces as his wife wept life. Crept from this plane, joined the angels. For little girls left, a set of twins gestating. Behold, I shine and praise, eulogized by Ozzie Davis. Take it, black people.